and welcome back to the Club Innovators Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle, and with me are three special guests today. We have Adam Shamsi, who's the VP of Sales at Capstone Hospitality, Greg Rotzel, who's the VP of Operations at Capstone Hospitality, and Brian Friedrichs, the CEO of Capstone Hospitality. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kyle.
Good morning.
Thank you, Kyle.
So look, today we're going to talk about the Drive product at Capstone Hospitality. And really, we're going to go through the background of it, why it's important, special things of it. You know, it's a newly released product. I know it's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we think it's really valuable for membership sales directors. But I think it's something that needs a little bit of story behind it and some explanation. So we're going to talk about that briefly today. And Brian, we're going to kick it off with you. Let's talk about the story and the background behind Drive and really how it came about. How did this idea come about and how was it created?
Yeah, no. So really we got to go back, 10, 15 years to kind of start talking about why Capstone was formed, why we are good at what we do and how that kind of segued into this product. We started the company really back in 2009. And then there was a little gap where I went and tried to play golf for a living, did that for 4 years, traveled all around. And then as I was traveling, I would routinely go in, talk to the head pro, talk to the GM, talk to the membership director, because I had some experience in that field. And just, I would always talk about membership and ask, how's your membership going? And pretty routinely, people would say, well, we could always use more members, right? This was 2012. So this was prior to the big, kind of COVID membership boom, right? And so I kind of was like, why is this the case? Like, why are these things that seemingly are very great products? They're very nice clubs. They have great facilities. They're ran well. Why are they struggling to get members, right? And so I could always trace that back to the sales process, the membership sales process. And historically, right, membership directors hold a bunch of different hats, right? They're event planners. They deal with member relations, member billing, right? All of these things, right, are important roles within the club. But the sales aspect has really become secondary for these positions in a lot of ways, right? And and that was a big challenge for a lot of different clubs because, right, they start losing members, their dues line starts dropping, they're not gaining more members, they're not net gaining members, right? Then they have to maybe do an assessment, they maybe have to raise their dues a little bit, then they start losing more members, right? And it's a vicious cycle. And so really what I saw was that there needed to be a new approach to membership sales. There needed to be more of a focused approach to membership sales. And that's why we founded Capstone Hospitality. And I founded Capstone Hospitality. We've been fortunate to work with over 100 clubs all across the nation, predominantly high-end golf clubs, golf and country clubs. But we've also worked with city clubs. We've worked with private speedways. We work with yacht clubs. We work with unique dining clubs, really any membership-based model business, boat clubs, so on and so forth. And through that process, right, when we first started out, we were just utilizing like notepads, Excel spreadsheets. Some of us would utilize free versions of CRMs we would find online. And, when you're tracking, 15, 20,000 memberships, and there's all of these things that are happening on an annual basis and on a consistent basis, right? It's really easy for things to get lost in the shuffle, right? So I wanted to make sure that we had a really powerful way to track our leads, to make sure that we're putting our membership prospects at our client clubs through the best possible process in the industry, right? And we're really proud of that process that we've created internally, right? Through making sure that there's timely follow-up, making sure that you're storytelling through your sales process with the tour at the club, making sure you're following up diligently, right? We know that it takes multiple touches to get somebody to convert to a new member, right? So we've learned these things over the past 10, 15 years of selling thousands of memberships and millions of dollars in memberships all across the country, in the Northeast, in the Midwest, in the Pacific Northwest, in the Southwest, and the Southeast. And so we've been able to collect all of that data and see what works, what doesn't work. And we've spent, what is it, Greg? Maybe 5 or 7 of the past years building out a system to where our salespeople within our clubs can utilize this system, right? To make sure that they're staying really on top of everything. And, as we've done it, our main goal at Capstone is to help clubs grow, to help grow the game, right? And so, as we're looking at this and talking about it, we're so proud internally of what we've developed out. It was, well, why don't we release this to the industry? So we've spent really the past year kind of making that a possibility and consolidating all of our systems. So our Drive platform is really the operating system of what drives Capstone to have these really incredible numbers, right? We've done stats over the past, and at one point, after a year of partnering with Capstone, clubs typically saw like a 300 to 500% increase in sales year over year. So it really a powerful, powerful system. Right now, some are higher, some are lower. That's an average that we've seen. And so we wanted to release this product for membership directors across the country to be able to utilize this turnkey solution, right? That comes with all of our processes. It also comes with data analytics done by our executive team. You get some recommendations from our team. So you really have this piece of equipment, right, to better serve you in your role, to be able to maximize sales and to maximize retention and all that stuff. So that's kind of the long story of why we created it and where we are now. Yeah. And so that's it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's really incredible to hear the journey and why it was created. Really there was this kind of gap, and then, Capstone was able to come in and help out with that membership aspect of it. And then utilizing the tool that you built out, now making it really kind of a thing that the industry can go and access. And so, Greg, I know you spent a lot of time, you were the main guy that built this out, right, through the processes that Brian had developed over those, over the last decade. So can you talk a little bit about the build out and the really important aspects that are in that system that are going to help out salespeople?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know Brian was saying that it was probably, or we've been utilizing the CRM system for about 5 years. I would say the first year of that was build out of the CRM system. So that just kind of shows how much work was put into this. And it was multiple people. It was myself, it was Brian, it was a couple other employees that really had a big hand in building out the Drive CRM system, but really our customized CRM system that we utilize. It's funny because I've talked about this with Adam, with Brian, with everybody, and even salespeople as well. I was even leery kind of getting into the CRM system because we had built out sort of this pretty generic, but still a somewhat customized spreadsheet specifically for membership sales that we utilized at all of our clubs. And I was like, oh, this is all I need. Right? Like I don't need anything else. I'm as organized as I can be. I've got all the information I need. But literally within a week of utilizing the system, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense, right? And this is going to help all of our salespeople. It's going to help our sales process. It is going to kind of turbocharge what we do. And get that to the next level, right? And I think we've seen as we've been able to adapt to these different programs and campaigns in the CRM system and just processes in general, the CRM system has kind of been the center for us over the last few years to be able to integrate all different types of campaigns. So the build out itself, we kind of took what we do as a sales organization and put that into the CRM system, but it is specifically customized for membership sales, right? So we have created what we call deal stages. We have created a ton of different properties throughout the CRM system that in a way automate the process for salespeople, that make it easier and quicker for them to work through their sales process, but also guide them through the sales process as well to make sure that they are classifying leads correctly, that they are organizing their leads, that they have tasks that they can send to themselves to update their process on a daily basis. Another thing that I was probably the most excited about when I first started utilizing the CRM system, probably talk about this for hours and hours, but the reporting side of things. When we were utilizing spreadsheets before the CRM system, there was only so much data that we could glean from what we were doing.
Glean.
Now,
That's a good word.
that's a good word, right? I
I was
knew you'd like that, Brad.
thinking that as well.
So the reporting side of things, what we call the reports or the dashboards within our CRM system, what has been really cool to see over the last couple of years, and Kyle, I know you will speak to this a little bit, but just the integration between the marketing and the lead generation that we do and utilizing the CRM system to maximize everything across the board, every single thing that we do in our process. We can go in and look at all of the reports at every single club that we're working with and say, hey, we're running this lead generation program. It's doing great. It's bringing us a lot of leads. It's generating a lot of tours. We're spending this amount of money on it. Let's maybe spend a little bit more because the ROI is there, right? Whereas there may be some other campaigns that will be run that may not be as successful, but we can actually track that and we can see that. And I think at times clubs that we work with, going into this membership sales process, they may not understand how powerful it is to be able to see all this data, be able to see just the financial implications of it, right? Because when it comes down to it, these clubs want to build up their financials so that they can have more capital projects going on at the club. They can renovate the club. They can put more money into the golf course. That's why we do this, right? That's why we work with all of these clubs, because they want to get to a point where they feel like they are at a 10 out of 10. Their members are having a great time. They're having a great experience. The golf course is great. The clubhouse is great. The food is great. And we are able to utilize our CRM system to get everybody at the club to the point where we can say, hey, this is your highest ROI here, over here, over here. And utilizing that through the CRM system, I think personally is one of the most powerful things.
Yeah, and I think to echo that, one of the biggest things that I saw throughout building out this whole thing was it took a lot of money and a lot of time to build it out, to get it to the point where it is a turnkey solution for membership sales, right? Any single membership director in the country, if they want to effectively maximize their strategies to attracting and retaining new members, should be utilizing Drive, right? Because it has been built out with a ton of data specific to the membership sales process at a wide variety of clubs across the country, right? There's no other tool that I've come across in the industry that can do that, right? And so for a membership director to just have the opportunity to get this, to not only get this, to be able to have this process, right, that we can customize specific to the club, but utilizing our system that has been built out over years and years and years. And also get the data analytics that Greg was talking about, the recommendations from our executive team, but also be part of a bigger network that you can bounce ideas off of. You can get marketing templates, right? It's such a powerful tool for clubs and membership directors and general managers and boards to have. And the price point is so low, right, that really, in my mind, almost every single club in the country should be utilizing a system like Drive, right? And it's the single greatest thing that clubs can do to help maximize their processes, right? And so, yeah, no, it's great. It's something we're really, really proud of. And we've seen the results, and we've seen clubs on board that weren't utilizing our system, or maybe they were using a different system that wasn't really doing what they wanted, right? The results have been fantastic, and the feedback has been outstanding. So no, it's a great tool, and the team has done an incredible job at developing it and continuing to develop it out. We're continuing to make tweaks on it and add more features and all that. So it's great.
Yeah, no, there's so much data there to unpack and information. So, Adam, let me throw it to you. Speaking from a sales perspective, you have been a salesperson, a membership director at the club level, and you manage membership directors. So can you talk a little bit about both of those facets? And sorry, I'm throwing kind of a complex question at you, but from both sides, how this CRM, how Drive CRM can really help the salesperson, but also help the sales manager kind of look at that data and make informed decisions.
Yeah, let's break that up. Well, first we'll start with the sales side. Like Greg, I was I was an Excel guy using that whole process, which listen, if you're on top of your game, it can work, but it's not going to be quite as effective as Drive. So I was super hesitant in the beginning, whatever, that was probably 5 years ago when we rolled this out, and kind of integrating that into my sales process. But once I did, it just made everything better. No longer did things fall through the cracks. It allowed me to organize. I'm pretty organized now and was then, but even more so with this platform and utilizing that in my everyday work life. So, and ultimately led to increased sales, most importantly. So I know that makes Brian happy. That makes me happy, makes the club happy. So yeah, so we instantly saw just an increase right off the bat. So I would say when we rolled that out, probably the best year that we've ever had at the club I was selling at the time. So from that, I couldn't imagine going back to the way I used to do it. The amount of time it saved for me as a membership director, you just can't put a value number on that. It allowed me to not just focus on sales. It just consolidated my sales, I guess, day where I would kind of dedicate 6 to 7 hours of just sales. And then I had all these other responsibilities at the club that I was handling where I could dedicate a little bit more time to that. Because I was able to just organize things and streamline a lot of my processes through the CRM system. So it's just invaluable. And then I guess we'll shift towards more of the management side of things. I don't know how you guys manage salespeople prior to using this, but I would say it's probably close to impossible to be super effective in it without it. So the reporting, the dashboards that we utilize, the reporting that Greg's built out, it allows me to manage more effectively without a doubt. So whether that's just looking at activity or helping our clients just forecast for the future and looking at the data and analyzing that, looking at what other clubs are doing, you have it all right there. So from that side of things, yeah, I think it makes just managing the whole process so much better, not just for the membership sales staff, but also for our clients. Getting those reports on a weekly basis is I think they have a lot of value. There's a lot of value in that. So you're not doing that and you don't have that access. I feel like you're definitely behind the eight ball from a club side of things. So
yeah, and also one of the biggest roles within membership directors, right? So let's break that down a little bit, right? They're doing relations, they're doing sales, they're doing a lot of times communications, they're focusing on attrition, but they're also reporting to a general manager or a board, right? And I know as a membership director, I was a membership director in a club for a long time. Everyone, Greg and Adam has been as well. And that's a big part of it. A big part of it is you're trying to figure out how to hit specific markets, tap into certain things, trying to figure out how to maximize, right? Because a lot of times you're commission based and, you also have a lot of pressure on yourself to hit these numbers that the club has given you to hit. And sometimes you need tools and you need data to be able to take to your general managers and your boards of, hey, I really want to do this. I want to do this mailer. Right. And I know it's going to cost $2,000 or whatever it is, but I feel like if we do this, we're going to get 2 new members from it. And, that's why I want to do it. Right. And sometimes boards will be resistant and GMs will be resistant to spending money. But if you can have actual real world data that you can get through the Drive platform from other clubs, you can talk to us. We can give you data on what lead generators work the best. Right? You can do them and say, hey, here's the facts, right? Here's why I want to do it. And we can also track this and I can give you an exact ROI. Or, hey, here's the trend of what we have been selling. Here's the categories that really aren't selling right now. We think that the price point is maybe slightly too high or whatever it may be, right? Or we don't have the facilities to be attracting this demographic, and here's what's being done in other clubs, here's what our comp set is and all that. So again, it's taking more of an analytical, data-driven approach with real world results, right, to be able to present to your boards, your committees, your GMs, to be able to effectively get things passed that's going to help membership directors do their jobs better. And like you said, Shamsi, as well, it's this helps you do other aspects of your job more effectively as well. Right. And so I think that's important, right? Like you can't just drop these other things, right? Unfortunately. So having a system that is going to consolidate your time and maximize that is imperative, right? Even if your club is at a wait list or approaching a wait list, right? You still have to manage that and manage the wait list and manage inquiries and do all that. And having a system like this just helps tremendously.
Yeah, and it also, I know, when I was selling, and we were getting to that kind of that wait list, area, it allowed us to make informed decisions, right? So to get real specific, we had two young professional categories, and we were just watching, we got the reports, and we were looking, and we were selling a lot of those. So, allowed us to increase the initiation fees. Maybe it wasn't dropping it, but allowed us to increase those. And then eventually just not offer those anymore and just offer our main membership. I would say just implementing that system here at when I was selling probably accelerated the. I think we were always going to get to a wait list, but I think it accelerated that timeline,
Right.
And it allowed us to maximize the initiation fees and the dues line by utilizing that and getting that data and having those reports. So, and also just ultimately just saves a ton of time for the salesperson. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been interesting. Kyle, I know you and I have spoken to a few different membership directors recently all around the country that their clubs specifically are very close to a wait list or at a wait list, but they are still very interested in Drive, in this type of CRM system, because frankly, they know that the club industry has peaks and valleys, right? Well, right now, things are coming down a little bit from the COVID times, but they're still pretty good.
Yep. Still very strong.
You never quite know, right? So these membership directors are being proactive in trying to maximize and trying to get to the point where they can see all the data and they've got all the reporting and they're organized and they've got everything in a really great place through Drive, where in 3 years, if things change a little bit and there's a downturn in any way in the club industry, they've got everything at their fingertips and they're ahead of the game, right? They don't want to fall behind. And I think what you'll find is membership directors that are looking at it that way, that are trying to maximize at all times and stay ahead of any trend that is happening, they're going to be so much more successful than those that are more reactive and really just waiting for things to happen. And then if you are then bringing on a CRM system or bringing on Drive, at that point, you're too far behind.
Well, and here's the other great thing too, right? There are indicators out there, right? And we've seen this. Capstone has gone through cycles, right? Like the company was founded in 2009. That was like one of the worst times for the club industry, right? And we've seen the ebbs and flows and now the peaks, right? And you're absolutely right. Like that, nothing like this will last forever. That is something that I can guarantee. We don't know when, but there are little indicators, right, that we have seen that, right, maybe you have a gut feel for these things, but when you actually have the data to compare year over year and you can actually track trends across multiple different clubs and multiple different markets, you can start to collect patterns, right? And you can start to say, wow, we can forecast out that, okay, we may see a little downturn in 3 months, right? Or whatever it is, because there are little key indicators, right? And with a system like Drive and with the utilization of being able to call on our executive team to compare notes from all these other clubs, you can now pick up these things as well, right? And like Greg said, stay ahead of the game, be proactive instead of reactive to the scenario. Greg, and I'm curious, I have my opinion on a few of these indicators. What do you guys think a couple indicators are that clubs should be on the lookout for that, hey, maybe we're not moving in as good of a direction as we have?
Yeah, I think one of the number one indicators we always look at is just organic leads. The leads that are organically coming in through website inquiries, phone call inquiries, emails, walk-ins. That's kind of what we bucket into organic inquiries. And we have seen across the board from, the beginning or middle of COVID to now, we've seen organic inquiries kind of move back down and normalize. So when you're seeing that, what you have to say is, all right, how are we going to still bring in the same number of leads or more leads than we were before, because we are losing your solid organic inquiries. And so that's where the lead generation, the marketing comes into place. So that is for me where we can go back and we can compare at each club. All right, how many organic inquiries did we get in December of 2023, and how many do we have, or how many did we get December 2024? And we can say, all right, it went down or it went up. Things are trending in a good direction, or things are maybe not trending in a good direction. Right.
Yeah, I think we can also look at just the sales timeline. How long is it from start to finish? I think we've seen that time kind of expand over the last few years from where it was when we were in COVID. So, I don't know the hard facts on that. Maybe Greg can speak to it a little bit more, but I know, because I was actually actively selling at that time, that it was a lot quicker of a decision, right? We were closing down a lot faster, and now it's a more drawn out process. There's a lot more. The prospect is taking a lot more time in their decision making. And then also, just one other thing that just kind of popped into my head here is just the amount of the leads that you're not closing, or the reason why they're not closing. That's another key indicator that we could look at as well.
Yeah, mine was going to be the timeline on the close, right? On how many, exactly what they said, how many inquiries are coming in and how long it's taking for them to make their decision, right? And if those, and the percentages of lead to close, right? So prospective member comes in, right? They inquire. How many of those are then converting to an actual member? And if those percentages are on a quick or subtle downturn, right, then maybe you got to look at something, right? A lot of people, and I've managed a lot of salespeople and seen a lot of different clubs and a lot of different processes. Even the very, very best sometimes need a little tweak, sometimes need a little re-steer in the right direction with their process. It's no different than Tiger Woods or Scotty Scheffler doing drills and getting lessons, right? They're the best golfer. Like, Scotty Scheffler is hands down the best golfer in the world, but he's constantly getting lessons, and he's constantly looking at his stats to make sure that he's trending up and in a good direction, right? Salespeople and membership directors should be no different, right? And the best membership directors in the country are doing this. They are tracking this. They are looking at their stats. They're looking at their lead to tour, their tour to close ratios. They're looking at how many inquiries are coming in, and they are being proactive in their approach and knowing that, hey, something's off here. Let's try to figure it out. Or if we can't figure it out, let's call in professionals or get with my general manager or get with my board so that we can collectively work through that. And with a platform like Drive, you have the power and the tool to do that and be effective.
Yeah, no, these are all great points to that aspect. And I think it's a good segue into the marketing aspect of it, because we're talking so much about tracking. And I think the nice piece to Drive is that it's not that it does marketing that no one else can do. It's that it pulls a lot of that process into the same interface as everything else. Drive is there as a CRM system, and you can put leads in and contact and all these different things, but you can also do marketing through it. Probably have a lot of membership directors out there that do email campaigns, and maybe they do it in a MailChimp and everything else. Well, in Drive, you can do that in Drive, and you can track the same stuff. You can track who opened it, who clicked on it, all these different things. So the nice piece about the marketing built into your CRM system is back to what we've been talking about this whole time, is tracking and making informed decisions based off that tracking. Like Greg said, if we do a direct mailer campaign, and maybe we tag it with our QR code that goes to a specific landing page, and I'm going to get a little nitty gritty here. We can create a form that automatically tags that lead as a direct mailer lead. Now our tracking is darn near perfect.
Right.
Somebody scans that QR code, they fill it out, it automatically goes into the Drive CRM as a direct mailer lead. And now this allows us to track that campaign, very, very efficiently and make decisions based off that. We can look back and say, hey, we ran this campaign. We got 50 leads from it, 3 leads converted. It created this amount of dollars in income, whether it's through IF and dues. And now, like Greg said, we can track an ROI and say, is this worth it? Do we want to do it again?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's super important to clubs. And back to what you were saying, that's how you justify maybe doing it over again to your board, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we'd love to do a direct mailer campaign. We had a 300% ROI.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you had pushback from your board before, you're not going to get it when you come back and say we had a 300% ROI.
Right. No.
But you have to have those numbers.
Yeah. No, it's interesting too. Like I've presented to so many boards and spoke with so many membership directors and general managers. And one of the big questions I always ask, because we're trying to assess when we're looking at potentially partnering with a club, we're trying to assess what they're doing, right? Can we improve on their process and be very realistic about it, right? And one of the biggest things we ask is, hey, what are you currently doing marketing wise? I've had so few be able to give me this is exactly what we're doing. And this is the results that we're getting from it, right? It's typically, well, we sometimes do some magazines. We sometimes do some news ads. We do some Facebook online ads. We do, maybe this, maybe that. And I'm like, well, how many members have you gotten from that magazine ad?
They never know.
I'm not sure, right? And it's like, well, how much are you spending on it? $20,000 a year. What? Okay, yeah, we can help you,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to, right, we do a lot of digital ads for clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and this becomes super important, digital ads. It's really easy to run digital ads and get leads. Well, it's not easy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's easy to go out there and spend money and get leads, right? That's based off your spend. But it's tracking it all the way through. And the nice thing about having a CRM like Drive is, okay, if you can get it in and tag it correctly as a Facebook lead, now you can see the process. How many of those leads toured and how many of those tours converted, because now you have the full sales process built in with it. How many of you out there, if you're listening, have a third-party person do Facebook ads for you, and then you get a report and they say, well, we got 1,100 impressions or a million impressions, and all you're thinking is like, hey, that's great, but I didn't get any tours or sales from it, or I got really minimal tours or sales from it. Like, let's be honest about ourselves. We don't care about impressions. That just means that someone came across it. If you're a GM out there, and I'm sure Adam, as a manager, you can speak to this, you care about the tours and sales, right? Ultimately, isn't that what makes the money, correct?
1,000,000%. That's literally all that matters.
So why, I ask these people all the time, why are we even measuring everything else? And you can measure it and you can report on it because it will give you a little bit of insight.
It just looks better, right? If you can say, hey, we got 3,000 impressions, it's like, wow, Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, right, the decision of whether you're going to continue to run that lead generator should be how many tours and how many of those tours converted, right? How many people saw that ad and at least made it to the club? Because again, we can go back to, hey, we're getting a lot of tours. Maybe we're not getting a lot of close. Now we're like, okay, the ads are good, but maybe we need to go back and check the sales process, right? So there's these different things you can get from it. But I think all of us are kind of saying the same thing. This comes back to being able to track things and make informed decisions based off that tracking.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think is the coolest thing, right, or the most impressive thing? Like, as we were building this thing out, call it 5 years ago, and subsequently the things we have added since then, there's been a few moments where I've been like, that's pretty saucy. What do you feel like, your guys' opinion is on what that is? Mine, like, one of the ones that I really liked was the meeting tool, right? Being able to just directly schedule meetings on the website, and those go immediately into your lead database, and you get a calendar notification, and it just like automates it, right? Or book a meeting or whatever, right? That was one. The other one that I've always been like, oh my God, that would have been so good if like I had that when I was selling, was the ability to watch and see when people are opening the emails and opening attachments. Right? Because if you create these drip campaigns, which can be set up through Drive, if you're creating, right, so say you have, and most clubs have this, right, an old database of leads, right, and you can then create every single one of them and put them on a drip campaign that's just giving them highlights about your club or whatever it may be, right, very soft sell stuff. And all of a sudden you start seeing a trend that, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have opened this email 5 different times, and every single time we send something, they open it, right? And they're looking at it and they're opening the attachments. You probably want to reach out to that person. You probably want to give them a call and invite them out to the club, right? How are you going to be able to do that if you can't track that? So literally, it's like a cheat code. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I can literally see exactly who's interested and target those people. That to me was like, wow, like technology is pretty cool,
I think one of the coolest features that we now have built into it is the ability to call through it, right? And it basically can generate notes from your call.
Yeah,
It gives you a nice rundown. You don't have to do anything; it just does it right for you. So as long as you call through the system, which gives we give you that ability to do, that way you don't have to worry about taking notes. It's just all right there. Again, just saving time.
How accurate is that?
It's extremely accurate.
Pretty good.
That's scary.
Yeah. So
it gives you
they're always
listening. A full transcript of everything that is said. What's really cool that I like we always, preach with our salespeople, hey, when you're on a call with a prospective member, ask questions, right? Get them or get a better feel for that person. What is it they're interested at the club? Is it golf? Is it social? Is it family events? Is it food? And one really cool thing with the AI that is now within the CRM system is it will track the percentage of time each person has basically been talking on that call. So you can go in as a salesperson and say, I was talking for 75% of that call. I probably wasn't asking enough questions. I wasn't letting them talk. I was just data dumping. Right? Or you go in and say, oh, I only spoke for 30% of that call. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I was asking those questions. I was saying the right things. So it's such an amazing tool for the salesperson. I can't imagine back when I was selling 7-8 years ago, even having that tool to be able to say this right now, right?
Well, you could just you could geek out on this stuff so much. That's how I feel when I start talking about it, I'm just like, man, so you could literally start comparing, okay, what prospective members have closed and on my introductory call, or how many people are coming out for a tour on my introductory calls? What is my percentages of speaking, right? And you can see right there. You can see right there what is working the best, what questions. And so think about it from this perspective. And this is where we could just talk all day and have a ton of fun with this. But this is what you're getting with Drive. You're getting access to all of this, right? And so that's why it's so valuable for clubs. But if you say you're going through a sales process and you're like, okay, I'm going to call 100 leads, right? And I'm going to ask every single lead the exact same questions, right? And then I'm going to take another 100 and I'm going to ask these questions, right? And then, and you keep doing that. Now you literally have the data, right, to go back and look at the conversation. Okay, these set of questions, right, that I asked over this 100 calls, hands down led to the most tour conversions, right? So again, that's where, you could get as deep as you want into this stuff, but you have the system to be able to do that, to be able to maximize. And what GM and board and membership are not going to love that you are doing these types of things, right? That's what they hired you to do. Right. And so the ability to bring this to the table, to have a turnkey solution, and to explore these types of things with industry executives that have over 100 plus years experience in the membership sales and membership director game, you can't beat it, Can't beat it.
Yeah, I'm going to finish it up and add in just one more thing. You guys talked about a lot of the complex tools that are great. I'm going to throw in a simple one. It's the ability to make forms that directly connect with the CRM. You can make a form, put it on your website as a membership inquiry, and it automatically imports it into the CRM. And that's where I've heard a lot of feedback from membership directors of just the amount of time they waste if they do have a CRM or they have a spreadsheet, is taking it from an inquiry and inputting all the information.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it seems like it's only, 5 to 10 minutes, but think about it, it's 5 to 10 minutes per lead. So if for some reason you get 20 in a day, right? That's a solid amount, right? That's an hour.
Well, not
And
only
so,
that, Kyle, but also just sending like follow-up emails and having like email templates built out into it that's personalized to each prospect. It's just like 2 clicks and it automatically sends.
Oh,
Just like,
one other thing that's actually really simple too, that I have heard multiple times people be like, this is the most amazing thing ever, is the ability to click on somebody's name. You know, I've saying Mr. and Mrs. Smith before. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it pulls up every single conversation that you've had in one format. So you don't have to go back through and search for emails and what was the name of their kid? What was, you know what I mean? It's all right there. So literally, Mr. and Mrs. Smith call, bam, you can pull up their name. You see every single thing about them. You see all the conversations you've had. You see all the emails that have gone. You can then tailor your sales specific to that prospect, right? It's incredible.
so if,
one
go
thing
ahead,
that I
Adam.
used to do before like every tour, like I just click on who's coming in 30 minutes before they would arrive at the club, and I would just start the beginning of the sales process, and I would just kind of read through the notes, and it gives you an idea like, okay, Mr. Smith works here, and this is Mrs. Smith's name, and this is what she does, and these are their kids, and they went on vacation to wherever, so let's talk about that on the tour. I know they're interested in X, Y, and Z, so I can tailor my tour towards those areas. It just elevates your sales process and elevates the game altogether. So
Yeah, and if obviously just by listening to this, if you're still listening at this point in the podcast, it's a product that everybody's very passionate about at Capstone Hospitality. So if you're interested in learning more about it, go ahead and hop on our website. It's www.capstone-hospitality.com/drive-info. Sorry, it's a little bit of a long one there, but if you hop on to the website,
you can
see it under
below?
services as well. Yeah, we will have the link in the description. We'll have it
That's
pop up
much
here on
easier.
YouTube if you're listening,
You know
or
how I
pop
am
up on
about
Spotify and Apple products.
those one-click wonders. You know what I mean? It's just one click.
Absolutely.
That's what I want. That's all I can do. That's all. That's my capacity. If I got to click multiple times or type in, I'm out.
There we go. We're talking about barriers to entry right there. If you're a marketing guru out there, we appreciate everyone that's still listening. Again, if you need any information, the links are in the bio. For me, for Adam, for Greg, and for Brian, signing off from Club Innovators. We will see you next week.